On the bright and colorful planet of Xylox, the sky sparkled with shades of blue and green. Today was a special day, the Festival of Unity, where different alien species gathered to celebrate their culture and friendships. The air was filled with laughter, music, and the delicious smell of food from all corners of the planet. Aliens of all shapes and sizes danced joyfully. Some had shiny blue skin, while others had soft, fuzzy fur. There were tall aliens with long limbs and short ones with big round eyes. Everyone wore bright clothes that glimmered in the sunlight. The festival was a sight to behold, a true celebration of life and community. At the center of the festival, a large stage was set up. Here, the leaders of each species took turns sharing stories and traditions. The crowd cheered and clapped, excited to hear tales of bravery, friendship, and peace. Children laughed as they played games, while adults enjoyed food stalls filled with strange and tasty dishes. Xyloxian fruits were juicy and sweet, and roasted delicacies filled the air with mouth-watering scents. As the sun began to set, colorful lights lit up the festival grounds, creating a magical atmosphere. Everyone gathered around the stage to watch the evening performances. Dancers twirled gracefully, their movements telling stories of their people. Musicians played joyful tunes that made even the grumpiest aliens smile and tap their feet. But as the night deepened, something unusual happened. A low hum filled the air, barely noticeable at first. The festival-goers continued to dance and sing, unaware of the strange signals that appeared on the leaders' screens. The aliens on the council were the first to notice. They exchanged worried glances, knowing that something was not right. The council leader, a tall alien with shimmering purple skin named Vorak, stood up. He raised his hand, calling for silence. The music faded, and the crowd turned to look at him, curiosity mixed with concern. Vorak cleared his throat and spoke. "Friends, we have detected unusual signals coming from the outer regions of our planet. We believe it may be a ship approaching." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some aliens looked scared, while others laughed, thinking it was a joke. "It's probably just a passing comet," said a cheerful alien with green skin named Zilia. "Let's not ruin our festival!" Vorak nodded, but he could not shake off the feeling of unease. "We should stay alert. Our safety is important. But let's enjoy the festival for now," he replied, trying to calm the crowd. The music resumed, but the joyful atmosphere was slightly dampened. Some families began to pack their things, worried about the strange signals. Others tried to focus on the festivities, determined not to let fear spoil their fun. As the evening wore on, the young ones at the festival were curious about the strange signals. A group of brave young aliens, led by a daring girl named Nira, decided to investigate. "We need to find out what's really happening," Nira said, her eyes shining with excitement. Her friends nodded, eager for an adventure. Sneaking away from the main festivities, the group ventured toward the outskirts of the celebration. The stars twinkled brightly above them, lighting their path. Nira and her friends laughed and joked, trying to shake off their nerves. They climbed a small hill to get a better view of the sky. As they reached the top, their eyes widened in shock. In the distance, several large ships hovered above the planet, glowing with strange lights. The ships were unlike anything they had ever seen. The kids gasped, their excitement turning to fear. "What are those?" whispered one of her friends, his voice trembling. "They look like human ships," Nira said, recalling stories of humans she had heard from her elders. "They say humans are fierce warriors!" The group exchanged worried glances. The Festival of Joy had turned into a moment of uncertainty. Little did they know that their lives were about to change forever as the ships drew closer to Xylox. As the night deepened on Xylox, the festival continued, but a heavy cloud of worry hung in the air. The bright lights and joyful music felt distant to those who had seen the strange ships in the sky. Nira and her friends huddled together at the top of the hill, gazing down at the festival, where the laughter and dancing were now mixed with fear. "What should we do?" asked Liko, one of Nira's friends. His wide eyes darted back and forth between the festival and the ships above. "Should we tell the others?" Nira shook her head. "Not yet. We need to learn more. We can't panic everyone without knowing what's happening." She knew they had to act quickly. The festival had been a joyful celebration, but now it felt like a ticking clock, counting down to something big. They decided to climb down the hill and move closer to the edge of the festival area. As they crept through the crowd, they noticed that many aliens were still dancing, trying to ignore the feeling of unease. But the whispers and worried looks told a different story. Some adults were gathering in small groups, exchanging worried glances and hushed tones. Suddenly, the joyful music stopped again, replaced by the urgent beeping of alarms from the council's platform. Vorak, the council leader, appeared again, his expression serious. "Attention, everyone!" he shouted, trying to regain control. The crowd quieted, their excitement replaced with tension. "We have confirmed that ships are approaching our planet. They are human vessels, and we do not know their intentions." Vorak paused, letting his words sink in. "I ask everyone to remain calm. We are monitoring the situation closely." The crowd erupted in panic. "Humans? Why are they here?" someone shouted. "What do they want?" Another voice cried out, "We must protect our home!" Nira felt her heart race. The stories about humans were not just tales. They were real. The fear in the crowd mirrored her own. She turned to her friends. "We need to help. We can't just stand here and do nothing." "But what can we do?" Liko asked, trembling. "We're just kids!" Nira looked around, her mind racing. "We know this planet better than anyone. We can find a way to warn the others or gather information." Her determination sparked a glimmer of hope in her friends. "Okay, let's do it!" Liko replied, a bit more confident now. "But we have to be careful." They quickly made their way back to the hill, hoping to get a better view of the situation. From the top, they could see the glowing ships in the sky, now closer and more menacing. The aliens below began to scatter, some heading towards their homes, while others looked for shelter. As they watched, Nira spotted a small group of brave aliens near the edge of the festival grounds. These were the Guardians, warriors trained to protect their people. Nira's heart sank as she saw them preparing for battle. They were gathering weapons, ready to confront the humans. "We have to warn them!" she shouted, pulling her friends along. They hurried down the hill, trying to reach the Guardians before it was too late. Just as they reached the group, one of the Guardians, a tall and strong alien named Kaller, noticed them. "What are you kids doing here?" "It's dangerous," he said, a look of concern on his face. Nira took a deep breath. "We saw the ships. We think you should be careful. Not all humans want to fight. Maybe we can talk to them." Kaller frowned, his grip tightening on his weapon. "Talking is not what humans do. They are warriors and they will attack. We must prepare to defend our planet. But what if they don't want to fight?" Liko pleaded. "We could try to communicate. There must be another way." Kaller looked at them, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. He knew the stories of humans, but a part of him wondered if there was more to them than just warriors. Before he could respond, a loud roar filled the sky. The ships had lowered their landing gears, and lights shone down, illuminating the festival grounds. "Time is running out," Kaller said. "We need to make a choice." The young aliens stood there, hearts pounding. They had to decide, should they fight, or could they find a way to reach out to the humans before it was too late? The ships hovered above Xylox, casting long shadows over the festival grounds. Bright lights flashed from their sides, illuminating the worried faces of the aliens below. Nira, Liko, and their friends stood alongside the Guardians, their hearts racing with fear and curiosity. What would happen next? Kaller the Guardian watched the ships intently. "Get ready!" he shouted to the others. "Prepare to defend our home!" His voice was strong, but Nira could see doubt in his eyes. She could feel the tension in the air, and it made her stomach twist. The thought of fighting scared her. As the ships landed with a thud, the ground shook slightly. Dust rose around them, and the crowd gasped. Nira glanced at her friends, who looked just as frightened as she felt. "What if they come here to hurt us?" Liko whispered, his voice trembling. Before Nira could answer, the doors of the ships opened with a loud hiss. Bright lights shone from inside, and figures began to step out. They were humans, tall and strong, wearing strange outfits. Nira had seen pictures of humans in her lessons, but seeing them in person made her heart race even faster. The humans moved in a precise line, their expressions serious. Some held weapons, while others carried devices that flashed with light. The crowd of aliens began to back away, panic rising again. Nira knew she had to act quickly. "We need to try to talk to them," she urged, stepping forward. Kaller looked at her, his expression worried. "Are you sure, Nira? They may not want to talk." But Nira felt a spark of courage. They might not be here to fight. Maybe they just want to communicate. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out from the group and waved her arms. "Wait! We mean no harm!" she shouted, her voice loud and clear. The humans stopped, their heads turning toward her. For a moment there was silence. Nira's heart pounded in her chest as she held her breath, hoping they would listen. The humans exchanged glances, their faces serious but curious. One of them, a tall woman with short hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. She held her weapon loosely, which made Nira feel a little better. "What do you want?" the woman called out, her voice firm but not unkind. "We come in peace, but we are prepared for anything." Nira's heart raced. "We are just celebrating. We thought you were here to attack. We mean no harm. We want to understand each other." The woman narrowed her eyes, studying Nira. "You are brave to stand alone," she said slowly, "but you must understand we come from a different world. Our species has fought many battles. We are not here to hurt you unless we are threatened." The crowd of aliens whispered among themselves, fear and hope mixing in the air. Nira felt the weight of their eyes on her, and she knew this was her moment to make a difference. "Please, let's talk! There is so much we can learn from each other." The woman looked back at her fellow humans. They seemed to be debating something. Finally, the woman nodded. "All right, we will listen. But if you try to deceive us, we will not hesitate to defend ourselves." Nira let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "Thank you. I promise we just want to talk." She turned to Kaller and the other guardians, relief washing over her. "See? They are willing to listen." Kaller looked uncertain but nodded slowly. "Very well. Let's see what they have to say." As Nira stepped closer to the humans, she felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was a chance to bridge the gap between their worlds. The crowd began to gather around, curiosity replacing some of their fear. The woman introduced herself as Captain Rhea. "We are explorers," she explained. "We seek knowledge about other worlds and their cultures." The aliens listened intently, some still holding on to their fear, while others began to relax. Nira felt a sense of hope rise within her. "Maybe we can share stories," she suggested. "You can tell us about your world and we can share ours." Captain Rhea nodded. "That sounds fair. We are willing to learn." As they began to share stories, the atmosphere shifted. Laughter and smiles slowly replaced the tension. Nira realized that this was just the beginning of a new journey, one where understanding and friendship could blossom. But deep down, she also sensed that not everyone was ready to accept this change. The shadows of the past lingered, and challenges were still ahead. The night was far from over, and the unexpected arrival of humans would forever alter the fate of Xylox. The atmosphere was electric as Captain Rhea and the humans shared stories with the aliens of Xylox. Nira felt a sense of hope and excitement as the crowd gathered, eager to hear more. Liko and their friends stood nearby, watching in awe as cultures collided and understanding began to grow. But just as things seemed to settle, a loud noise interrupted the conversations. A group of armed guardians approached, their faces filled with anger. At the front was Kaller, his brow furrowed with concern. "What is going on here?" he shouted, stepping forward. His voice echoed across the festival grounds, cutting through the cheerful chatter. "Why are you speaking with these humans?" Nira's heart sank. She had hoped the guardians would see the potential for peace, but Kaller's rage was clear. "Kaller, please! They are not our enemies!" Nira pleaded, stepping in front of the captain to protect her. "They want to talk." Kaller's eyes blazed with distrust. "They are strangers! We cannot trust them! You don't understand the danger they bring!" The crowd grew tense again. The humans stood ready, their hands near their weapons. Captain Rhea remained calm, but Nira could see the uncertainty in her eyes. "We mean no harm," she said firmly. "We are here to learn, not to fight." But Kaller would not be swayed. "You don't know their kind. They have a history of violence. They have come to conquer." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Some aliens nodded in fear, recalling the stories of humans who had once fought and destroyed worlds. Nira could feel the weight of their doubts pressing down on her. "We are not like those who came before," Captain Rhea replied, her voice steady. "We seek friendship, not war. We want to understand your culture." Kaller stepped closer, anger boiling beneath the surface. "Understanding can only happen through strength. We must protect our home!" He raised his weapon, pointing it toward the humans. Nira's heart raced. "Kaller, don't! This isn't the answer!" She knew that a fight would only deepen the divide. But before she could speak further, Kaller shouted, "Prepare for battle!" The guardians took positions, ready to defend their home. The humans responded by raising their weapons, tension crackling in the air. "Stop!" Nira cried out, her voice filled with desperation. "We cannot let this happen! We have a chance for peace!" She stepped between the two groups, her heart pounding. "Please listen to me. We can find common ground. Fighting will only lead to more pain and loss." Kaller hesitated, his weapon still aimed but uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Captain Rhea lowered her weapon slightly, looking at Nira with hope. "What do you suggest?" she asked, her tone softening. Nira took a deep breath. "Let us have a meeting. A chance to share our ideas without weapons. We can talk, not fight." Kaller frowned but lowered his weapon. "A meeting? With them? What if it is a trick? Then we will prepare for defense," Rhea replied, her voice steady. "But I believe it is worth the risk." The crowd watched in silence, their eyes darting between Nira, Kaller, and Captain Rhea. Finally, Kaller nodded slowly, though he looked unconvinced. "Very well. But I will not lower my guard." Nira felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you, Kaller. Let's show them that we can work together." As the Guardians and humans set up a meeting place, the atmosphere shifted again. The crowd began to murmur, curiosity replacing fear. Nira stood next to Captain Rhea, feeling the tension ease slightly. Once the area was ready, they gathered in a circle, both sides still wary but willing to listen. Nira took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Let's share our cultures. We can learn from each other." Captain Rhea nodded. "We come from a place called Earth, where we have many traditions and stories. We want to know about your world, your ways." One of the aliens stepped forward. "We have tales of bravery and the spirits of our ancestors. They guide us in times of trouble." As stories flowed between them, Nira watched in awe. Despite the tension, there was a sense of understanding building. But she also felt a shadow lurking in the background. Some in the crowd still believed fighting was the only answer. The meeting continued, and although they began to share, Nira knew that a clash of worlds still loomed. The fears and doubts were not gone. They had only been pushed aside for now. Would they be able to overcome the barriers between them? Or would the past haunt their future? Nira could only hope that this moment would lead to something greater, a true connection between the humans and her people before it was too late. The air buzzed with excitement and uncertainty as Nira stood at the center of the gathering. Aliens and humans exchanged stories, their voices a mix of hope and tension. While some in the crowd still feared the strangers, others were beginning to see them as potential allies. Nira felt a spark of hope within her. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the festival grounds, Kaller and Captain Rhea sat across from each other, ready to continue their discussion. The atmosphere was tense but filled with anticipation. Nira sensed that the future of both their worlds rested on this meeting. "Let's start with our cultures," Captain Rhea said, her voice steady. "Tell us about Xylox and its people." Kaller nodded, slowly relaxing. "We are a proud people, connected to our land and the spirits that watch over us. We value strength and unity. Our ancestors fought to protect this world from invaders." Rhea listened intently, her gaze focused. "And we come from Earth, where we also have a rich history. We've had wars and struggles, but we've learned that peace is the strongest path. We seek friendship, not conflict." Nira felt the tension ease a little as the two leaders began to share more. She stood next to Liko, watching as their worlds began to blend. The more they talked, the more they found common ground. As the meeting continued, an elder from Xylox stood up, his voice deep and wise. "We have faced many threats, but we have also learned the value of cooperation. Perhaps we can learn to fight together if needed." Captain Rhea nodded, her eyes bright with understanding. "That is what we hope for as well. United, we can stand against any force that threatens us." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Nira felt a wave of relief wash over her. Maybe they were beginning to bridge the gap between their worlds. But as they continued, she couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was still lurking nearby. Just then, a loud explosion erupted in the distance. The ground shook and everyone turned toward the sound, fear rising again. "What was that?" Liko gasped, his eyes wide with panic. Kaller immediately stood, his face hardening with determination. "We must investigate. It could be an attack." Without waiting for a response, he ran toward the source of the noise, the other Guardians following closely behind. Captain Rhea quickly called her team into action. "Stay close! We need to protect our new allies." Nira felt her heart race as she followed Kaller and Rhea. The crowd dispersed in chaos, but she remained focused. She could sense that this moment would test everything they had just built. As they reached the edge of the festival grounds, they saw a group of aliens fighting against a small squad of humans. The humans were dressed in dark uniforms, their faces cold and hard. "These are not our allies!" one of them shouted, firing a weapon into the air. Kaller and Rhea exchanged glances, realizing that the conflict had begun. "We have to stop this!" Nira yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We can't let a few misunderstandings ruin everything!" Kaller nodded, raising his weapon. "We need to unite! Guardians and humans together!" Captain Rhea shouted to her team. "Stay with the Xylox! We will fight side by side." The humans hesitated, but saw the determination in Rhea's eyes. They formed a line with the Guardians, ready to defend their newfound allies. Nira felt a surge of pride as she watched them stand together. As the battle began, Nira charged forward, her heart pounding. "We can do this!" she shouted, rallying those around her. "Together we are strong!" The Guardians and humans fought side by side, blocking attacks and returning fire. Nira moved with a newfound courage, watching as Kaller and Rhea worked together, their trust growing in the heat of battle. Just when it seemed the enemy was gaining ground, the crowd of aliens and humans united, fighting back with renewed strength. They shouted and cheered, their voices merging into one powerful force. With every strike, they pushed the attackers back, showcasing the strength of their alliance. Nira felt the energy between them, a bond forming through their shared struggles. After what felt like hours, the last of the attackers fled, leaving behind a field of tired but victorious warriors. Nira looked around, her heart swelling with pride. They had fought for each other, proving that their worlds could unite against a common threat. As the dust settled, Kaller turned to Rhea, both breathless but triumphant. "We did it! Together!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with joy. "Yes," Rhea replied, a smile spreading across her face. "We stand united. This is just the beginning." Nira knew that their journey was far from over, but in that moment, she felt a sense of hope. They had faced conflict and emerged stronger. Together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead, as allies, as friends. United, they would build a brighter future for both Xylox and Earth.